Hi, I am Rachel Romeliotis, a senior editor at O'Reilly Media, and I am here at Strata Rx with Bob Evans.
Hi.
He is a software engineer at Google working on PACO. So tell me, did this start when you had to log your dog's barks to prove that he wasn't the dog disturbing the neighbors?
Well, PACO itself didn't start at that point, but that
Okay.
yeah, that was definitely the first data logging with PACO, I think, that we did. The real dog, not the software.
Yes. So tell me about PACO, sort of how it's evolved and how it went from that first data logging.
Yeah. So PACO really, as opposed to tracking the dog barking so we didn't get in trouble with our neighbors, the real thing that it started out was really trying to understand my own existence, and I realized that there was a lot of stuff I wasn't paying attention to, and if I had a tool to remind me about the things that I cared about, then I thought that would be pretty useful for living a happier, healthier life. And so that's where PACO got its start. And then over the last several years, we've used it for many things. We were working on engineering productivity and how engineers stay productive and how they experience their day and where their attention goes and things like that. And I discovered Csikszentmihalyi, the guy who created the flow concept and experiential sampling, this method that it provides, which is a much more accurate way to understand daily experience, and implemented that in PACO, and then it just sort of started taking off, and people were using it everywhere for all sorts of things I'd never imagined. And so now we have a couple of engineers working on it, one other full-time engineer, and then we've got a bunch of open source people working on it as well all over the globe, because a lot of people have uses for studying daily experience and understanding it and understanding their own experiences. And so it's growing a lot faster now, and I'm excited. We have a new release coming out probably in the next week. I hope to have it done for this show, but alas, it didn't happen.
No, that's great, though, that you're incorporating open source development into it as well.
Yeah, I think that really with something like PACO, where there's so much opportunity to learn from your own data and also to learn from a population data, that making this open source is the only way to go, because the network effect of everyone contributing hopefully will end up with better tools for everyone by virtue of everyone's participation.
Right. So why do you think it's important that individuals look at their own selves and their health and what they're doing on a daily basis?
Well, I don't know if I'd use the word important. I might say useful.
Okay.
And maybe that's why it's important, because it really can help you guide yourself. There's all kinds of experience that we have momentarily fleeting, and actually Daniel Kahneman in his book Thinking Fast and Slow that I just finished reading a year or so ago, it really impressed me. He talks about the remembering self and the experiencing self, and most of our decisions are made by the remembering self, which optimizes for preventing bad outcomes and maximizing good outcomes as remembered, but that gives short shrift to the experiencing self. And so if you have a tool to capture your experiences along the way, you may get a much different picture of your life, and you may see things that just go by the wayside in your normal existence because you're not paying attention to them. But when you can reflect on them, that raises your awareness, and when you all of a sudden realize what's going on, you have the opportunity to change for the better, hopefully.
How do you think PACO will deal with people that maybe misdiagnose issues, whether it's health or spending time doing something?
So one of my hopes is that it'll be translational. So by working with researchers to develop the interventions and behavioral monitors in PACO, my hope is that they'll provide them back in the platform for other people, lay people to use to track themselves. So that one hedge against it hopefully is that we'll have better tools available to more people that have been vetted by research. And then I think there's still ultimately really an issue of misdiagnosis. Like if you search for a malady that you might be experiencing on the internet, it can be pretty horrifying.
Are you tired?
Yeah.
So with PACO, it kind of falls into the quantified self arena. How do you think it's going to stand out from the other devices that are out there?
Well, I think fully it's in the quantified self thing. I totally agree with that.
Yep.
I think that the differentiator, the reason I built PACO in that domain, particularly where I saw problems with, there aren't trackers for a lot of the things I want to know. So I want to track how I feel in the afternoons after eating heavy meals. And so, or that one's maybe kind of mundane, and there are trackers that would do that. But let's say I wanted to track my experiences speaking at conferences. There's probably not a tracker for that.
Probably not.
So it'd be it's very easy in PACO. In minutes, I can build one. Example today, Carol McCall gave the talk this morning about Timothy Wilson's book Redirect, which is all about behavior change through narrating your own story. I'd never heard of this concept, but I read through a little bit of it while she was speaking and realized, okay, there's an opportunity here. So I built a little PACO experiment to like focus on how I build my own story about how I'm doing behavior change in myself. So I think that's one difference. And then the other big difference is that all the data that you collect and across all these experiments you create end up in one place. So now you can pull all this data. It's not a silo for each type of experiment you're running or each tracker you would be running, but it's all in one place, and you can mash it up, do visualizations across it, and really you own the data as opposed to the data being owned by one particular vertical, like one device or another device, where it's hard to pull all that data together.
Absolutely. So where would you like to see sort of data, health, and PACO in the next 5 years?
So I have this personal mission. I think that, the self-help industry is gigantic, right?
Sure.
And it ranges from everything of very faddish, maybe even charlatan stuff, which I'll give them the credit, and I'll say maybe they aren't being charlatans, but maybe it only works for them. Like, they had a great idea, they changed their lives, and they're like, I want to spread this to everyone. How fantastic can this be? Or could this be? And maybe it doesn't work for anyone else. Maybe it's not good science. So what I'd like to see happen, and this is personal mission with PACO, is if you have a behavior change protocol, you should be able to lay it out as a PACO experiment in a declarative form that's empirically verifiable, validatable, run it on the platform with a person, collect the data, and then also you can compare that. One, that gives you repeatability on that sort of behavior protocol, whatever it is. And then two, they're both, you could do this with another similar protocol, and then since they're both empirically laid out, run on the same platform, and collecting the data, you should be able to compare those protocols to each other, and hopefully that will move the science forward of understanding behavior theory better, which leads to better behavior changes and hopefully all kinds of goodness.
That's great. Well, I wish you success. I'm definitely downloading PACO today, and thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Nice to talk to you.